Hello, I'm Kieran James, and my website is called Busuk Chronicles. I've been part of visiting Indonesia scene in Bandung and Surabaya since 2011. So I want to record this video to talk about a legendary band from Bandung, from Bandung Death Metal, and the band is called Under God. And the reason that I'll do this now is because Under God has had a lot of years of absence, of no recordings. But this year there's a new single from the band. So there's been a lot of disruption, as you know, because of COVID and lockdowns. So many bands have been inactive and can't play or can't meet. So it's really good that some of the bands are starting to play again and record again. So I'll talk a bit about the history of Under God. So Under God is one of the legendary old school bands of Bandung Death Metal. Maybe not the first generation, but very close. Formed in 2004. And some of the famous people to have played in Under God, the vocalist Kinoi, who always spoke in the Sundanese language, and that was what made Under God famous in the beginning. So I remember John Uedi, the reporter or journalist from Balikpapan. He came to Bandung in 2012 with me, and he really wanted to talk to Kinoi and Iga. And he was kind of like, because he was from Balikpapan, he believed in Bahasa Indonesian and the Indonesian language project. And he was a little bit, concerned or a bit upset even, or shocked about Under God singing in Sundanese and talking about Sundanese lyrics and mythology. But, Kinoi gave a good interview and told him when he was in school, he struggled. He found it very hard to learn Bahasa Indonesian. So for him, Sundanese was his own culture and his roots. It was almost like he said it was a revenge for him. Because in school, he couldn't speak Bahasa Indonesian. So when he had a band, he wanted to sing in Sundanese and talk about Sundanese mythology. And this is years before Jasad turned to talk about the same topic in about 2011. When Jasad moved to talk about Sundanese mythology in the rebirth of Jadi Sunda album, but this was in 2012, and before that, Under God were the first band with the Sundanese lyrics and the very strong Sundanese image. And this is what made Under God very popular and very famous in Bandung and in West Java and in the countryside of West Java. And they became very legendary. As Papa from Demon's Dome say, Kinoi was like one of the rebels of Bandung Death Metal, and sometimes they had to push him to have a shower. And he was like a very hardcore rebel. So here we have a famous picture. And this is me. You can see me there. This is in April 2012. There was a very famous concert or show held in the countryside in Soreang on the 1st of April 2012. And it was meant to be headlined by Jasad and Disinfected. And the last band to play at about 3 o'clock was Humiliation from Soreang. And then the police came and they made everybody disappear slowly. And with Bobby and Papa, I was in the last car to disappear. And I didn't really want to disappear, but with the Indonesian police, we don't fool about. So I remember the young metalheads, the outright fans in the outright shirt. They had to leave the hall, and the police came, and they were looking so sad. And Humiliation could not play. Humiliation played. Outright could not play. Jasad could not play, and Disinfected could not play on that night in Soreang. But if you look at the fans here, what is quite amazing is the age of the fans, mostly junior high school probably, and we can see there are more Under God t-shirts than any other shirt. So Under God was really one of the bands back then that really captured the attention and the support of the young people who believed They were supporting and championing Sundanese culture in a very real way, in a very authentic way. So they were special in that way because of the Sundanese lyrics and the Sundanese aspect to the band. Okay, I'll just screen share a little bit more. And here we have Safar from Ujung Berung. And here we have Undergod from the interview that John and me did on the 1st of April. No, not the 1st of April, but in April 2012 in Ujung Berung. And you can see here John Uedi, the late John Uedi on the left. And we can see myself there. We can see Igard, the bass player, second from left, and Kinoi there on the right in Ujung Berung. So that picture there from 2012. And I believe that Under God, it was the first band of Abbas, the famous drummer, who later played in Demon's Dam and Kalaman and Jasad. And the first show from, the first band that Abbas played in, I believe, was Under God. So that was the route and the entryway for Abbas to become a famous drummer in Bandung Death Metal. So no matter what Abbas is doing now, I don't know, but he's always a legend for the fact he played in so many pioneer bands and he played in so many albums. So we see here again, as I said, John Uedi on the left, the journalist from Balikpapan, and you can see me there. And Igor Lomans, the bass player, I believe he gave Under God a lot of stability and a bit of direction. And Kinoi, the vocalist, on the right. And who you don't see is Sayed, who was in the band for the first album, the guitar player, but I believe he has left the metal scene now. So we have another great picture here from Ujung Berung from April 2012 with Kinoi on the left, and John Uedi in the middle, and Inga Lomans on the right, and a very scary wardrobe at the back, which is extremely suitable for the death metal of Ujung Berung there. Okay, so what can we say about the new single? So Under God has had 2 albums. I won't say the name of the first one. It's in Indonesian. There's 2 albums that have come out in the last 12 years. So it's not like the Western band where maybe they can release an album every year because financially they're very strong or stable. In Indonesia, often we see the great bands, maybe 20 years, like Jihad, and only release, say, 3 albums. Because of the financial struggle and the poverty and the need to go and work in different cities for jobs and college and whatever. So some of the long-serving bands have only got 2 albums or 3 albums. So Under God also with 2 albums and now the single. So what can we say about the single? Well, I've just played the single and it's really a bit of a surprise and a shock. It's more like groove metal or thrash metal with a little bit of a hint of underground, hardcore and punk. It's a little bit different. You won't get pure death metal from the new single. It's like a little bit of an influence from modern metal and from 90s metal, groove metal. The production is extremely good, as you would expect. The Kenoi's vocals are very upfront and very strong. And it's that kind of 90s metal like Pantera, which is very start-stop. And otherwise, all of the band members are very effective. It's very groovy and very catchy. But on the other hand, maybe the band is reflecting the fact that times are changing. It's not really the traditional old school death metal that you might expect. I would say it's almost new metal with a bit of thrash, a bit of hardcore, and a bit of punk. But very much in that stop-start style. And with Kinoi, his vocals are very upfront, but it's more like he's either singing or he's yelling or he's shouting, rather than the death metal growling. And what is also interesting is the lyrics partly or fully, I believe they're in English. So Undergod was very famous for Sundanese lyrics and refusing to back down or bow down to the English or Bahasa Indonesian. But here, you know, everything changes now. It's good. We get a surprise. We get Undergod singing or Kino singing maybe in English. And I think his daughter, one time, I think 2 years back, he said, "Oh, his daughter is better in English than he is. His 12-year-old daughter." So maybe he's been learning some English from his daughter. So he succeeds in doing a good effort here with the single. So it's good to see Eugene Bandung Death Metal with a very famous history and tradition. And the lockdown and COVID were very hard, but it's good to see the bands come back. And we need, yes, there are many young bands like Kurature or Fedora, many other bands, Infectament. But we need to see the old bands still there, even though they're kind of like old men at the moment. But it's great that they come back and they produce singles or EPs or albums. And that's part of the legacy of the scene and the history of the scene, and part of the rebirth and the regeneration. That we still have these legendary people and legendary bands hanging about and doing something and recording something and playing shows. So it's an honour, you know, that the fans, and I hope the young fans, come to appreciate and understand the history of bands like Undergod. And also bands like Bleeding Corpse and Turbidity and Safar and Jasad and Jihad. All of the legendary bands, Forgotten and Disinfected. All the legendary bands, and even those bands that were maybe at the second division or second level, they were part of the scene at the beginning. We need to remember. And every good scene or great scene in the world, they have that sense of history where they remember the old bands and the legendary bands, and they're very happy to see these people still playing, still hanging out with the scene, even though they get a little bit older. And I hope to see another Jihad album and another Bleeding Corpse album and another Undergod full-length album and another Suffer album and all those bands. We hope that they can produce another album. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Best wishes to Undergod.